We're going to start. We're, welcome to Chicago IANDS. This is May in 2025, and we are very glad to have you join us. We're going to take just a moment to have a brief meditation. If you have things on your lap, you might want to move them off and get yourself in a nice position where you can relax a little bit. Let your eyes gently close and go where you go when you go. Welcome back. So we have the great good fortune today to have Scott Robinson with us. I wanted to mention briefly that next month we will have Andrea Corey back. Some of you may have seen her. She's very interesting, very captivating near-death experiencer. She lost her daughter, Chloe, when she was 28 and began to communicate with her for 5 months. They wrote back and forth to each other, and she wrote a book about it. But she also has a really wonderful gift in doing meditations with sound, and she uses the sound for healing, and she's very effective at it. And she's coming back to talk to us more about the sound healing next month. So I hope you'll all join us. I'm sure you'll enjoy her. She's very accessible. So we will see you again at that point. And I'm going to turn this over to Scott. And it's all his until 4. If you have questions, You can write them in the chat box, and he'll if he feels the need, he'll answer it right away, or we'll save most of the questions probably for the end, last half hour or so. So about 3:30 our time. So welcome, Scott. We're so glad to have you.
And thank you, Diane, for having me. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
All right. For those that don't know me, my name is Dr. Scott Robinson, and I got my first doctorate there in Chicago, in Lombard, where I went to school and I lived in the Chicago area for 4 years. One of my first speakers that I met was Robert Mendelsohn, if you remember that. He wrote a book about doctors called Male Practice. Do you remember that doctor, Robert Mendelsohn? And do you remember also um, Bernie Siegel, who's my uncle, my godfather? And Bernie was the speaker for the year I graduated school there in Lombard. And as a result, we actually got to meet and work together. And he brought me into the TV and radio industry when talking about near-death experiences. So I'm Dr. Scott Robinson. I've had two near-death experiences, not one, but two. The first one occurred shortly after my high school graduation, where I was a Jewish kid in a Catholic school, given a car for my gift from my father, who was in the car business. And I was driving from Paterson, New Jersey, up to Lake Opatcon on Route 80 when I experienced a very strange thing. I remember getting on the highway. The last thing I saw was next exit downtown Paterson Hospital. That's what I saw. And I looked down at my hands. I saw through them. And I said, if this is death, there's nothing to be afraid of. According to the police report, I would drive 23 miles before something hit my car. I spun off, came out of the safety belt, the old 1968 Mercury Montego, came out of the safety belt and hit the window with the left side of my head, and the right side had one of those hand grabbers, and it dented my skull. When the police got to the car and opened the car, I fell out, and the last thing I remembered was hitting my head on the boot of the New Jersey State Super Trooper. And he said, he's DOA, dead on arrival. He would call my parents and tell them that their son was in a bad accident. Could they come and identify his body at the morgue? So my parents ran down to the hospital. In those days, the county morgue was actually in St. Joseph's Hospital. And they went in the back door. They went down the hallway. They couldn't find anybody in the morgue itself. And then at the very end, they saw a man wearing scrubs like I'm wearing now, pushing a body on a metal gurney into the refrigeration unit. And if you know the refrigeration doors for morgues, they open up these little hatches and they slide the body on this metal gurney and they push it in there and then they close the door. And as they got close, this man vanished, just disappeared. And it would be months before my parents would tell me about that because they couldn't figure out what happened to this man. Because I always asked, how come we never got a bill from the emergency room? And my parents said, because they didn't put you in the emergency room, they put you straight in the morgue. All right, simultaneously, while my parents are being called and told I'm dead, I leave my body. I float above, go up above the earth where I meet my archangel. As I am talking to him, he's saying, before we go on to heaven, I have something for you to look at. He said, turn around and look at the earth. Tell me what you see. And I saw these little streams of lights coming up from the earth to an invisible cloud that most people wouldn't see, but I could see it. And some were really, really thin and tiny, and some were really, really big, like a tree trunk. And he said, do you know what those are? I said, no. And he said, those are prayers. The little ones are individual prayers, and the big ones are group prayers of people praying for the same thing. And it reminded me of that because the last time I saw the prayers like that was during the last Pope. I don't mean the most recent one, the one before him, when Pope John Paul II was in the process of passing. So many billions of people were praying for him. It actually kept him on the planet an entire month early. And if you were to actually see what was going on from above Earth, you saw huge volumes of prayer going up into the
Mm.
cloud above the earth, like the Holy Spirit. And that made such a big difference. So prayer does make a difference. So I said to the angel, I don't know what it is. He said, okay, those are prayers, and we got to move on now. I went down the tunnel that everybody talks about, and I arrived at the gates of heaven, at least what people call the gates of heaven. And when I arrived there, I met my grandfather, who I'm named for. His name was Samuel George, and mine is Scott Gordon Robinson. And he said, it's not your time. You don't belong. You haven't fulfilled your purpose and missions in life. You have to return to earth. Oh, but before you go, I have someone for you to meet. And he brought me into a small room with three beings, one with his back facing me and wavy hair, and two other beings on the other side of him. One I recognized as Michael the Archangel, and then one to the right of him, another big angel, who said I would figure out who he was sometime in the future. Well, first Jesus turned around at me, towards me, and I said, are you the being everybody calls Jesus? And he smiled, and I knew immediately it was him. He said, you don't belong here. You haven't fulfilled your purpose and missions in life, and you'll have to return. I was bummed out. I mean, heaven, where I was just so beautiful and peaceful and such a great feeling. I didn't want to go back. And then the other being chimed in. He said, you will learn a simple technique to heal yourself and share that with other people. Oh, and by the way, you'll figure out who I am sometime in the future. Fast forward 30 years. I've gone to school. I became Dr. Robinson there in Lombard, Illinois. And I went to National College of Chiropractic at first, and then I went back to school in the country of Israel. And I became a medical examiner, and I came back to the United States and worked for the Division of Workers' Compensation as a medical expert witness, a court doc. That's what I did for my livelihood. But I also got caught up while I was in Israel. I was in the middle of a shooting war, and I got caught up and was volunteered to be on the front line taking people off the battlefield and bringing them to the hospital. And as a result of those things, I had some most unique experiences occur. Number one, I was not afraid in the face of combat. Maybe it's I just didn't know enough. Whatever, I felt at peace. I was in the middle with bullets whizzing around above and below me, seeing things blown up and shot down, and I had no feelings of fear whatsoever. That was number one. Number two, when I came back to the United States, I was back there in Chicago, and I was working at a clinical internship at Queen of the, no, it wasn't called Queen of the Valley. It was a Catholic hospital in near Naperville. And maybe somebody can remember the name of it. I can't recall. It's in the book, but I can't remember the name of it at the moment. And I did an internship there. And my first patient that night, because chiropractors in Illinois had to do OBGYN rotations, we had to work as EMTs, and we had to work emergency rooms. That was part of our law, what we had to do legally in the state of Illinois in the year that I graduated. So I worked the emergency room there as required. And my first client was somebody that was DOA. And as I was working on them, the MDs didn't want to do it. So I volunteered to do all the heart compressions. I was doing heart compressions for my supervisor and pumping away and pumping away and pumping away. And then I heard a voice. It was the voice of the man in front of me who was dead. And he said to me, you know, the ambulance crew didn't do anything for me while I was in the ambulance. I want you to know that. And I wanted to say thank you because you're the only person trying to save my life. And I noticed around me that the entire emergency room was glowing. It was beautiful white light all around me. I got told by the attending physician, stop. He had called it. He's called the death out at a certain time. It was 10 minutes of me doing compressions. And he said, boy, my other docs just don't seem to care about that. You were really into it and you weren't afraid. And I wanted to tell him I've had a near death experience. But in those days, people didn't understand what those were. Raymond Moody had just written the book, and it had just been out, and it wasn't quite popular or in yet. One of the things about near death experience people, when they have them, they usually are not afraid of death. They realize that what they're living is an illusion. This is a holographic universe. And what people call death is actually life. All right, I digressed a little bit. Let's get back onto this. After my graduation, I went on to continue to study, practiced in Israel, practiced in Belgium, came back to the United States, even did a stint in Mexico, and was the medical examiner for the state of California. And my job was to fly different places, track down people, find out what the issue was, and then present that case in court the next morning. And as a result, I went on and became a pilot and was flying my own airplane. I had a Beech Sierra C-24R retractable landing gear with a 210 horsepower engine. And I was constantly practicing because the insurance companies and the judges would send me all over the state. And on that one particular day, it was a cold December day. I was practicing up in Lake Arrowhead on an icy runway on purpose so that I could be prepared to fly from Long Beach all the way up to Sacramento, where I was going to have to go the next week to track down this person and then go to the court. On that particular day, I got off the runway. It was a cold day. We went up to 12,000 feet, and I began to feel really funny, just like the first near death experience. And I slumped over the steering wheel. It's called a yoke in an airplane. And thank goodness I had a flight instructor with me practicing. And she pushed the airplane down to 8,000 feet where I regained consciousness. She flew me back to Long Beach Airport where I got out, was still feeling strange. I was due my flight exam, so I went over to the flight exams office, and where the doctor said, you're bleeding internally, you're severely anemic, and we are going to send you to USC Medical Center, also known as General Hospital, down at USC in LA. So I went down, I saw 3 doctors down there. The doctors did not like what they saw, so they put me under anesthesia. They accidentally overdosed me with fentanyl, and I came out of my body for the second near death experience and floated above myself in what is called a veridical near death. In other words, you don't go all the way back to heaven, but usually you meet an angel and you get to see what's going on in the operating room. Well, I actually got to hear the conversation going on between the doctor and his nurse. First of all, they were wearing the exact same shoes. They were both plaid, and they were talking about things they should have never been discussing over the body of a patient. They were having an affair and they were both married to other people. I came back and I said to the angel floating with me, can I go home now? My body's a mess. And I heard, no, you still haven't fulfilled your purpose and missions in life. And I said, would you kindly remind me what's my mission and purpose in life? It's been a few years since you told me. And they said, you will learn a simple technique to heal yourself and share that with other people. Well, that technique is called Einstellen, Einstellen. It directly translates in German to connecting to the source and asking for help and healing, whatever you call the source. And so My job has been, ever since that second near-death experience, to teach this technique. And you know that being that was in the room with me, the third being that I couldn't identify? That was the being, that was the archangel that was with me, that was reminding me that I would do that. And he shared with me what I needed to do to fulfill my purpose and missions in life. So, number one, I teach this technique. Number two, I teach all sorts of alternative medicine, complementary medicine, integrative medicine for people who've been written off and left for dead. One of the things that I did not like by the doctors who worked with me there at the clinic at USC Medical Center was they left me for dead. And they told me if I didn't take their therapy, I was going to die. And I told them, if I do take your medicine, I would die. So I am going to go to Mexico and work with the Gerson Institute and Hilda Clark, Cure for All Diseases, Cure for All Cancers. And 3 months later, I came back trained both as the doctor and the patient. And when I went back to the USC Medical Center, they said, "That's funny. We must have made a mistake. We can't find anything wrong with you." And I said, "You do realize you're talking to a medical examiner? I go to court for a living." And the doctor shut up, lost my file. That doctor retired. The other doctor died. And the third doctor said, "You can't heal from anything unless it's from our medicines." And I wanted to punch him because I was so upset with him. But he was 7 foot 1 inch tall, and I could barely reach his belly button. He was the tallest doctor I had ever seen. I said, "Are you a professional basketball player?" He said, "I used to be the center for Tulane University before he went on to be a medical doctor." Long story short, I changed everything I did. I gave up all my medical degrees. I became a PhD and a doctor of theocentric counseling and ethics. I went on to become a licensed religious counselor. You see, in California, it is against the law to become a doctor and discuss God with your patients. You can lose your license. So I told him to go stick it. I gave up my license, and I went from $2,000 a month insurance down to $26 a month, becoming a licensed religious counselor. I work with the Romano Byzantine Orthodox Synod, which is based just outside in Evanston, Illinois, outside of Chicago. So they asked me, did I want to go on and become a full-fledged priest? And I said, nah, I grew up in a Jewish family. I'd rather be a rabbinical minister. But in my family, it turns out genetically, I'm related to Jesus. He truly is my big brother. And I am related to Aaron and Moses of the Bible. I'm 792 times removed from Aaron. My family has a line of 100 rabbis that as far back as we could go back, along with 100 priests on my mom's side. And as a result, because it's on my mom's side, I didn't inherit the Kohanim or the priestly class from the Jewish side because my father was Yehudit, or just the average Israelite. But many family members have the ability in my family to use the power of prayer to help people heal. So I continue in that tradition and I help people heal through prayer. Now, Diane has my book. It's called There Are No Lines in Heaven. She can show that to you. And I just recently had somebody from CBS in Seattle say, "Oh, that's an ugly book. It's simple, black and white, and it shows all the religions. You can't do that." I said, "God told me to put it on there," because I asked, what did God want on the cover? Second thing, I made it in really large print. As a manual, it's made in size 18 font. Why? Because most people that want to read it are over 40 years old, and you don't need your glasses to read it. He said, "Number one, you sell this book for too much money." And by the way, somebody said the book was $268. No, it's $68. It's a work manual, and it's the story of my life and how to overcome any chronic serious illness using alternative medicine and spiritual healing. Einstein, of course, is my main thing, but I teach other things in there. And I also have the ebook, and I'm working on an audio book for visually impaired people who can't read so they can listen to it. But just to know, when you're on a divine mission and purpose, you listen to what God says, not what people say. I did exactly as God told me. Make the book in large font. Make the book large enough so anybody could read it. Also, make it in simple English. And the biggest thing is, he said, "Oh, the verbiage is too big. You can't sell it mass production." I said, "The reason it's made that way is because chronically and seriously ill people usually have a hard time reading." And he said, "Oh, you'll never sell this. It'll never sell." Well, 2,882 books later, it's not only sold over 1,100 in the United States and Canada, it sold 466 in India. And this guy says this can't be happening. This is the difference about what needs to be done, because public relations says you got to do it this way, and God says you got to do it this way. My thing is, listen to God, be divinely guided in what you need to do, and don't worry about what people say, because your objective is to come here, master this reality, endure, persevere, and overcome it. What people do not know is this world is the dichotomy between good and evil. It is at one point the highest level of learning you can learn in the spiritual perspective and grow and become close to God. Number one, not all people are going to have a near death experience. It has to be pre programmed from the factory, as in the divine factory. And not everybody who has a near death experience is either going to write a book, tell their story, or even use the gifts God gives you when you return. I can tell people the reason for their being, their mission and purpose in life. I can tell them what trauma they've had. I can see faint matter around a person and tell them they've been abused and who by. I can tell them what's happened in their previous lifetimes. I can share with them what path they have to take to receive their help and healing. And I can also be told, touch not my child, which means if I hear that, the person has 12 weeks to live before they return home, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. So 1/3 of my clients are people who have just a limited amount of time and need to fulfill their purpose and missions in life before they return home. The next third are people with chronic challenges that medicine has not helped very well. And then a third are people on the spiritual path who are here to learn how they can boost their abilities and gifts to connect to the source and regain their personal power. Number one, the power of prayer. It really does work. The angels work off of that. It's their food and their fuel. You must learn the power that prayer has behind it. Number two, Einstein, tuning into the source, asking for help and healing. Now, are there other techniques? Yes. I also teach something called pushing faint matter, or dark negative energy, as discussed in Pushing Energy in Healing Masters of the Far East, a book that's 102 years old, written by Baird Spalding. Number three, the angels talk about pushing this negative energy out of the body, and that alone can help you heal. Number four, well, here's where the angels come in and remind me that most human beings have things that prevent them from opening up and becoming truly engaged and aware with the divine. I had talked previously, before, when we were checking the mics before I got on this conversation, about DMT levels. That's dimethyltryptamine, which is a substance seen that emanates from the pineal gland in the third eye in the middle of your head. Alien beings, of which there are 52 races that come to visit this world, have third brains. We're a two-brain being. They are three-brain beings. And what the third brain being is is actually an enlarged pineal gland. And if you want to connect to the source better, simply learn to how to open up your pineal gland so that it increases its level of DMT. Now, we live in a dichotomous world between good and evil, and evil's job is to destroy us. And one way evil will try to destroy us is fluorinate the water, which calcifies your pineal gland. Use 5G towers, which calcifies your pineal gland. Aluminum sprayed in the sky, which calcifies your pineal gland. Vaccinations, which calcify your pineal gland and cut you off. You can't blame the evil if you're having problems not connecting to God. Their job is to destroy you. Your job, not let it happen. And one of the ways to wake up is to open up your pineal gland so it secretes more DMT levels so you can connect to God, just like the alien races with the technology and the ability to travel here do. They call this world the zoo of the universe. You have to be selected to come to this planet, and you have to volunteer to come to the worst neighborhood in the entire universe. But at the same time, evil calls this a prison planet. It's actually a schooling planet. It is where you will learn more than any other world in our grand universe of scheme of things, more than any other being. Other beings want to come to this world to learn the difference because the dichotomy of good and evil does not exist in their world. Our holographic world is one grand illusion. Learn to overcome this grand illusion by mastering it. And one of those ways is by doing Einstein. The other way is to open up the filters that allow you to connect to the source. Well, what clogs those filters? Number one thing that the angels tell me, number one, is people are in a constant state of fear. 99.9% of all humans are in a constant state of fear. So don't listen to the news. Don't read the newspaper. Don't get involved in negativity and evil. Don't get involved in politics. We see, we're not only, as the book is called, There Are No Lines in Heaven. It's done for a reason. There are no lines in heaven when you reach the pearly gates. No Christians in the center, Jews to the left, Muslims to the right, for you are all children of God. And the angel that told me that said, you humans are so silly, you just don't remember who you are and why you're here. Well, number one, get rid of fear. And I teach people how to get rid of fear in 60 seconds. Number two, people are in a constant state of overwhelm. Anybody out there that isn't at some time in their life in some state of overwhelm? I think some are and don't even know it. So I can help you get rid of overwhelm again in 60 seconds. Third word is people don't know because they doubt. They absolutely doubt their own divinity. In order to heal, you must have faith in God, trust in a being stronger than us, like a Jesus or a Michael or others, and you must believe in your own divinity. And with that alone, you can heal, just knowing those three things. And if today 70% of the population won't recognize God if God stood in front of them, they can no longer believe in God because they have serious doubts about God and their divine connection. They're the ones that call this world a prison planet because they believe they're suffering. You were never sent to this world to suffer. You were sent to this world to struggle, like a butterfly struggles to push itself out of a cocoon. For those of you that don't know it or don't remember it, if you were to cut open a cocoon to help a butterfly get out easier, you will kill the cocoon. You will kill the butterfly. The cocoon is its attempt to struggle to push its way out. Humans must learn through their struggle. But if anybody tells you that you're suffering, you're listening to the wrong being. You were never sent here to suffer, but you were sent here to struggle. It is that struggle that will make you stronger and connect you to God. And so I talk about all those other things besides pushing faint matter and learning Einstein and prayer in order to connect to God. The last thing that the angels talk about, and it's the most important, is they said human beings do not know how to forgive one another. It is the reason you're in a constant state of war. And then they said, even if you could forgive another person, they said you don't know how to forgive the most important person. Vicky, who is the most important person that you have to forgive? And
Yourself.
exactly correct. The angels want you to know you must learn to forgive yourself in order for anybody to heal. So I will teach you very simple techniques to heal yourself and others when dealing with forgiveness. Now, the last one is one of my instructors was a man named Lloyd Muir. And Lloyd also had a near-death experience. I talk about 37 people in my book, 57 total, but 37 had fellow near-death experiences. And he talked about balancing by numbers and how you could break down each frequency of God into a number and help yourself heal. And so I tell people how to connect through frequency, verbally, through machines, and through Einstein, how to connect to help yourself heal. One of the biggest things with people besides forgiveness is anger, rage, resentment, fears, worries, doubts, sadness, hurt, grief. Grief is a big one. People get stuck in grief, especially if you are a Scorpio. You can get stuck in grief and can't get out of it. Your objective is not to carry the burden of grief with you forever or from lifetime to lifetime. You are to stop carrying your burdens from lifetime to lifetime ever again. How do you do that? I'm going to show you how to do that. It's easy to eliminate emotions because emotions, as you see, are the number one cause for evil getting in the body and making a person sick. I will use an example. I got called in on a consultation. It was by a doctor in California who knew that I had divine healing gifts. And this guy was really good diagnostician. I mean, he could diagnose anything. So to have him call me in was an honor. I'm like, wow. And he said, because I know that you can see things, I can't figure out what's going on with these two women who are in my office. They're not responding to any of the therapeutic approaches that normally work for everybody else. So I went in and I did my prayer that removed negative energy from the person. And there around this one woman was dark gray and brown energy around the right side of her head and her eye. And I said, you've been abused by three men, one but more than the other two. What was it? It had nothing to do with sexuality. It had nothing to do with it at all. I knew that something was forced upon her, but I didn't know what. And she said, I was forced to take chemotherapy. And if I didn't take chemo, they were going to cut off my insurance, which in the state of California is against the law. You're never to threaten a patient that they can't receive a therapeutic approach or receive insurance if you don't get a therapeutic approach. You see, in California, like I said earlier, they've eliminated God from the equation of healing, along with the state of New York, state of Massachusetts, and now the state of Michigan. So I had to leave California. And when I was going to go wherever I was going to go, I asked Father God, Where do I need to leave and go to? Because California will not let me practice and do what I need to do to help people. And I heard, get out of California on the 30th of January and get to Florida by the 15th of February. And otherwise, you're going to miss your connection. So I got in the car, packed it to the roof. I could barely see out the back window, and I drove to Florida. Didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I was going to do or how it was going to work. This talks about having faith in God. I put an ad out that doctors put out, ads called Furnished Finders, where doctors can find temporary housing. So can nurses, other working people in the profession. And then within 2 hours, a woman called me and said, I have an office for you to practice in. I have a house for you to live in. I believe in near death experiences. It turned out we both grew up in New Jersey and both our fathers were Jewish. And it turns out we might be related. When I met her, I went, oh my gosh, we've had past lives together. And I started to tell her about all of her past lives. And that is Dr. Victoria Miller, whose home I live in and whose office I practice out of in both Apopka and Altamont Springs, Florida. When I met her, I knew about my 42 sisters, 6 mothers, and 5 brothers and fathers that I had from past lifetimes that I had been told about. And I had slowly, over the years, had met all these people, but I was missing one of my sisters. This lifetime came from the late 1200s to the early 1300s when I was the youngest son of a mufti in the kingdom of Granada, where my father was the mufti who died in battle against the Catholics. Now, since all my other brothers had died in battle too, I had 6 mothers and 42 sisters to take care of. And in the Islamic world, it is the process of the oldest son or the oldest man in the family it's their responsibility to take care of their mothers, their sisters, and their daughters. Now, I didn't know anything about this because I didn't have a memory of that part, but I did know that I had this strong drive to take care of all my sisters. And I met them all along the way, and this was the last one. And she was a fellow healthcare practitioner right here in the Central Florida. And if I didn't get out of here in time, I would have missed that connection. Everybody has a reason for being, and you have a divine connection in everything you do. Nothing you do is by accident. Everything is for a divine reason. This is the illusion of this reality. And when you live life on purpose, meaning you live your life to know you're fulfilling your purpose and missions in life, you will find your reasons for being and help other people. Now, one of the biggest things that was told to me is I'm not here for ego or greed. I am here to help other people, but I still have to make a living. And going from being a chiropractor and a medical examiner, I went to becoming a licensed religious counselor and used my psychic gifts and abilities. And I can't say that people were really striving to come to see me. You might say they were dying to see me because most of the people I met were literally in the last throes of their life. But I'm here to either help people prepare to transition to the other world or fight and stay. And for those that are in the healing professions, to teach them everything alternative, complementary, integrative, and of course, teach them Einstein and pushing faint matter so they can help. So every other week on a Sunday at 2 p.m. Florida time, Eastern time, that would be 1 p.m. Chicago time, I do teaching Einstein. Now, actually, the group session's at 2 p.m. At 1:30, like I got on early to test my microphone, at 1:30 my time, 12:30 Chicago time, we do the actual teaching process of Einstein because it takes about a half an hour for me to teach you what you need to know. You can also bypass that by reading Chapter 5, Module 5. And you will learn everything I need for you to know before we start to do Einstellen. Now, there's many other healing paths, but my path was specifically I would learn a simple technique to heal myself and share that with other people. And when you're living life on purpose, Diane knows very well things happen for divine reasons and out of the blue. I asked Father God, who's going to take care of my PR? And I heard I will. And one thing led to another. And out of the blue, somebody from Canada called me and said, I need someone to fill in about near death experiences. And that was the first time I was ever invited to tell my story on a YouTube video. The next one was from somebody from Australia. I've done these types of videos, talks, live and in person for IANDS, Seattle, Santa Barbara, now live in person on Zoom for Chicago. I've worked and done universities, University of North Carolina Central. There's University of Virginia Medical School is a big thing on near-death experiences. Duke University, big thing on near-death experiences. And I was hoping that my school there in Chicago would have been into it. But the new dean who came in, who replaced the old dean who asked me to write the book, said, nah, we don't want you. Dr. Robinson, don't call us. We won't call you. And I said, what am I going to do about this book now? And that's when God stepped in and said, I will take care of it. And one thing led to another. And I started on a book tour and I've traveled all over the United States. And this is what I was told this last year on my birthday. And that was you would help people through soul shakes and earthquakes. And that began back in November of last year. Soul shakes and earthquakes. And over the next 2 to 5 years, you would help people bring heaven to earth and increase our energy and raise our consciousness to the fourth and fifth dimension, or over the next 2 to 5 years, people would go spiraling down and destroy themselves. That approximately 2/3 of the population of the earth would either die in a terrific final war, battle between good and evil, or they would change and elevate their consciousness. So for the audience today, and I have 44 guests on, how many of a show of hands want to bring hell on earth? And if there's anybody, raise your hand. Does anybody out there today want to bring hell on earth over the next 2 to 5 years? Anybody? All right, here's the counter question. How many of you over the next 2 to 5 years would like to bring heaven on earth so that we don't destroy ourselves? You can tap the little button on the bottom. It says react, and you'll just put your hand up. How many of you want to see heaven on earth? We have Julie, and we have James, and we have Vicky, and Marilyn, and Noreen, and Jim, and Catherine, and I don't see anybody on Marcy, but I see Mary, and I don't see Bronca yet, but I know Bronca's from Germany. Craig, Julie, Peggy, anybody else there? Bronca, can you hear me? And we have Philip, and of course, all the other people that are on today. Some people are just listening quietly. And of course, Marcia, you have hearts going up there. So Ben, and it's Arsis. The thing is, most people, hi Kim, and I know Kim because she's on my group as well as Sarah Ann and Gail Kelly. Our objective for not only all near-death experience people, but all people of the world. We are coming to the conclusion of our reality as you understand it. One of the ways to help bring heaven on earth is do Einstein. Another way is pushing faint matter. Another way is to pray every day to change the reality, to bring heaven to earth. The biggest thing that I'm beginning to see is one that was really unexpected was that the Pope is from Chicago and an American. That was not intended in the previous understanding of reality that I came from, because the Pope, the last Pope on earth, was supposed to become Peter, and it wasn't supposed to be an American, and it was supposed to be a black man from Africa. Now, they do say that the Pope is mulatto, so he has African roots like I do, but you can't tell that for most people who are mulatto. My grandmother there in Chicago, black lady from Alabama. That's where she came from. She used to live in Cabrini Green, and the Methodist Episcopal Church was her church. And I have cousins and aunts who are Chinese Buddhists. And my family, who thought they were all Jewish, found out they weren't. They're 15% Muslim. So I found out we had relatives in Israel and Palestine. And here's an important thing to know. Since my family is a Heinz 57 sauce, I had family, both Palestinian Christian, Palestinian Muslim, and Israeli Jewish, that were all killed in the last year events. One of the things that they tell you from the other side, number one, never hate anyone or anything ever, ever. Because if you do, the next reincarnation, you will come back in the thing you hate most. Number two, never commit suicide unless it's pre-programmed. And I had an argument with somebody who's an IANDS person and said, oh, but I had a guest and she said, yes, people do commit suicide. Yes, but it's rare. It's only 2% of all suicides are pre-programmed, just like near-death experiences. Only 2% are pre-programmed. When is a suicide permitted? Number one, it's pre-programmed. Number two, your death will save someone else's life in some way, shape, or form. You've all heard of the people that sacrifice themselves by jumping on a grenade. They killed themselves, but they saved their platoon, right? They made everybody bail out of the plane, and they took the plane and crashed it. They died, or, stuff like that. Or they jumped in front of an oncoming bus or car or truck, pushed someone out of the way, and they died. That's pre-programmed. Most people are not supposed to commit suicide. That's just evil trying to make people that they feel worthless and they should kill themselves because there's no way out. On an annual basis, there's more than 790 a month in Japan where kids disappear because they felt that they had to commit harikari because they lost face in the face of their family for whatever they thought they did. All you have to do is ask for help and to be forgiven. We all are human beings. We all make mistakes. We must forgive ourselves first. And in doing that, you must remember there are many things, like do not get attached to people, places, times, or spaces, for all things will change. Come and go like the tide, because there will be good days and bad days. Be grateful for the good days and just know that the bad days won't last long. Remember, you live on a world of dichotomy between good and evil. Your job is to master this reality, endure, persevere, and overcome it. And do not get caught up in the evil, because you will lose your soul. And once you hurt your soul, it takes a long time to repair it. Healing begins on the spiritual level because 95% of all healing occurs from the spiritual side. Only 5% come from the physical side. And of the 5%, 4.9% are emotionally related issues. Other 0.1%, accidents. And as the other side tells me, we can't stop everything bad from happening to you. But if something does happen bad, call out to God, and that will change everything. Case in point, 2 years ago, when I was beginning my book tour, I was selling my mom's house, and I tripped and fell forward and hit this edge, the knife edge, onto a stair that was made of cement. And my hand hit my eye like this. I thought I was going to lose my eye, and I broke my hand, and the finger, the bone came out. It knocked me silly. I got up. I was so mad at myself for not seeing that step. I shook it off. I grabbed my hand because it was bleeding. I went home. I did Einstellen. I wrapped it up. I went to the urgent care. And they said, we think that this is broken. I said, no, really. They put it in a cast, but I did some special things over that cast, inside and out. And I did my Einstellen. And within 3 weeks, my hand had healed. They told me it was going to take 12 weeks for my hand to heal. It was completely healed in 3 weeks. I could make a fist. Now, somebody who happened to be in the emergency room the same time I was, the lady fell down, had a similar accident. And she, 12 weeks later, was still in a cast. And she said, what did you do differently? And I said, I prayed. And she said, uh-huh, but she wasn't interested in learning how to do Einstellen. There's prayer and there's meditation. But Einstellen, in its definition, means connecting to source and asking for help and healing. It's like prayer and meditation stuck on steroids. And even though I work one-on-one with clients and I ask for donations, I do not ask for donations for the Einstellen, which is done every 2 weeks on a Sunday, like I said, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It's always done for free. So people have excuses. Oh, your book is too expensive. At $68, it's a workbook. It took me a while to write that book. It's 25 years of experience. And I ask every one of my clients one-on-one to read certain sections of it. Chapter 5, modules 3, 5, and 8, so that you can be properly prepared for terminology when we work together. But to do Einstein, never a charge. God doesn't charge me for the Heilstrom, the healing stream, the Holy Spirit. I don't charge anybody else for it. It's free of charge from the big guy upstairs because I call God the big guy, the one, the all, the everything, the it. There's no way you can put a name on the creator. It's both masculine and feminine. And the one other thing I bring up, you are not a male or a female. You are not a Republican or a Democrat. You are not Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, or Muslim. You are not a U.S. citizen. All of us are children of God. And what you want to call yourself comes with the fact that people like to identify, and I love to identify with their illness. If you want to get rid of your illness, stop identifying with it. I've worked with so many cancer patients. They call it my illness. Stop it. Every time you call it mine, me, my, I, you keep identifying with it, and there's no way God can take it away from you. You put it in the past tense, and you never identify it with it again. You will never hear me talk about any diagnosis, I will always step around it on purpose. I never want it identified with this earthly body ever. Once you disidentify with a diagnosis or a prognosis, you are now open to receiving healing, not just from doing Einstein pushing faint matter and prayer, but from every other avenue. You must disidentify your physical body and or trauma and or diagnosis and put it in the past and never again discuss it into the present. You want to heal? That's how you do it. Now, doctors love to give diagnosis, and earthly diagnosis don't mean diddly. I listen to God. The thing that saved my life is when the doctors told me that I should go home and write my will because they didn't think I was going to make it 6 months. And the words that saved me is, I don't accept your diagnosis and prognosis, and went to start learning alternative, complementary, and integrative medicine, and then spiritual medicine. How many out there, now you can put your hands down a real second. If you can put your hand, it'll say put your hand down. How many out there have something that they would like to pray for or heal in their physical or emotional bodies? Anybody out there? Julie? Arsis? You only have 2 people out there that are interested in helps and healings? Bronca? No, I guess nobody else is interested. So we won't need to go any further. Was that Valerie had a hand up there?
No, it's Peggy.
Oh, hi, Peggy.
You ought to know.
Yeah, I didn't see the name Peggy. So let me go to the chat box. Can I please discuss neuroplasticity in regards to healing and divinity? I've been told I had a chronic incurable condition. Thank you. One of the biggest things is they can tell you anything you want. If you accept their incurability, then you're stuck. The one biggest thing is God is the greatest physician and there is no incurable. Neuroplasticity says your brain can learn and change. Hey, they wrote me off 3 times. The big saving grace is I told them to go stick it. And is that's one thing that keeps me alive is I don't accept their diagnosis. If I did, I would have been dead a long time ago. So James, you brought that up. Is there anything else you want me to add to that? James, you there? Often hearts? I guess everybody got bored with my conversation, so I will call it a day, Diane. It seems like I've bored the Chicago IANDS to death. So,
Oh, I don't think so.
all
Not
right.
at all.
All right.
Not at all.
So is there any other questions? Because I can talk for
James,
3 hours.
James had asked a question. Can you please discuss
I
neuroplasticity?
just answered that question.
Oh, okay, you got it all.
I
Okay.
got that. Since that's the only question, I got nobody else to talk to.
Wait. I'd like to say something.
All right. And that is Heidi.
Yes. Hello, sir.
Heidi, tell us what.
Loving this. You are fabulous. My yes was there because I didn't think you saw my little waved hand, but yes to the healing and yes to heaven on earth. And I'm looking forward to going to one of your Sunday classes. Very cool.
All right. Number 1, going to give you my email so you can put yourself on my email list. And that's
Great.
healer to be sure. I think what I'll do is I'll write it in the chat box so people can see it better.
Okay. You can get his book on Amazon.
Great.
And the book is called There Are No Lines in Heaven.
Scott, could you also share it just verbally? I can't figure my phone out.
Oh, There Are No Lines in Heaven.
No, the healer, your
I see. Healer, Healer, healer the number 2, the letter B as in boy, sure, SURE, so healer to be sure, at gmail.com. It's just the letter B. People thinks it's BE. No, it's just the letter B. Healer to
Perfect.
be
Thank you.
sure at gmail.com. My book is There Are No Lines in Heaven. The website is there are no lines in heaven.com. And if you heard earlier, the book got its name because the angel appeared when one of my patients had hired me. They were at the Gerson Institute, and they came to me for help and healing because they had been written off by their medical doctors. And I said, why are you hiring me? I know for a fact that you are a devout Christian and you don't like anybody working with you that's not a Christian. And I'm a Judeo-Christian. I'm, Jewish, but with a Christian background of how I do things. And he said, because you met Jesus. I said, but I've also known through tests that I'm related to Jesus. He is literally a big brother. He's a cousin. And in ancient days, 2,000 years ago, there were no word for cousin. They would call you little brother and little sister, or big brother and big sister,
wow.
because that was what another term for cousin would have been. That's how it is in Hebrew. So he said, though, I've heard the story and I want to hear the words directly from you. So he had a near-death experience and he came back and he said, Dr. Robinson, you're right. Everybody's welcome in heaven. I said, I told ya. On the day of his actual death, when he did not come back, an angel appeared in the room and said, there are no lines in heaven when you reach the pearly gates, no Christians in the center, Jews to the left, Muslims to the right, for you are all children of God and you are all welcome. Now, one of my other stories takes place there in Chicago because one of my godchildren, my niece, lives there in Chicago and ran for office as a supervisor in one of the counties. I think it was DeKalb County. And her name is, it went out of my head. It went just flipped out of my head a second. Hold on a second. Oh, shoot. Come on. But anyway, maybe she doesn't want my name, me telling her name. Oh, Liliana. Liliana was born into a Catholic family who had crossed over from Mexico into New Mexico and California, had migrated to Chicago many, many, many years ago. And when she grew up in the Catholic diocese there in Chicago, she told her mother for a fact when she was 8 years old, I'm not Catholic, I'm Jewish, and I don't want to go to church. Well, she was remembering her past lifetimes. And her parents said, yeah, sure. When you're 21, you can do anything you want, but as long as you live under our roof, you're Catholic. So at age 21, she moved to California and she became Jewish. And she became Jewish at our synagogue. And she went on to become an Orthodox Jew right there in Chicago. And she's moving to Israel to make Aliyah. She's going to be moving there very soon. Her story was the following. One day she called me and said, please pray for my aunt. She's very ill. So I did. I prayed for her for 3 days and I got called and I was told that she died. I said, okay. 3 days later, a being comes into the room. I could smell angels. The smell of an angel is something tremendous. An angel, a good guy angel, smells like this beautiful fragrance that's literally heavenly. It makes mouth watering. Whereas a bad guy angel stinks like an ashtray, a good guy angel is a one of a kind. And there is no real angel of death. The angel that brings you to earth is also the angel that takes you back. So it's sort of a misnomer. But on this day, I know all my angels that are around me by their fragrance. And this smell came into the room. It wafted into the room. And I said, Mom, an angel's in the room. And she said, this time I could smell it because it was 2 years before my mom passed away. And Mom was getting very close to God. So on that day, the angel said, I said to the angel, I don't recognize your fragrance. You're new to me. And he answered, I'm only 2,000 of your earth years old. I'm new. We're a little busy back here. And as a result, I had to take this person home, and she wanted to say thank you. I said, are you Liliana's aunt? And she said, yes. I would like you to tell my family that I am well. I'm feeling really good. I'm out of pain. She said, also, would you kindly continue to do prayers for my husband who began to drink uncontrollably when I was diagnosed with this terminal illness? I said, I will. So for the next 3 weeks, I would pray for her husband until an angel appeared again and said, stop praying for him. They said he stopped drinking. Good. Meanwhile, I called Liliana to tell her about her cousin. Her mother had told me 10 different things. So I told, the cousin called me. I told the daughter, her cousin, the 10 things her mother told me to tell her. And she said, how would you know that? You never knew my mother. I said, your mother told me those things when she came to the house so I could tell you that I knew what I was talking about. She said, even my cousin Liliana doesn't know some of those things. So she finally believed me. Liliana's cousin moved from Texas, where the mother had died, and moved to be with her cousin. She lives there in Chicago. That story is in the book. All right, you have some other questions here. When is the next Sunday meeting? It's May the 18th. Sunday, May the 18th. So not this Sunday, which is tomorrow. It'll be the next week. It'll be 2 p.m. my time, which is 1 p.m. your time. But since you have to learn about a half an hour's worth, it'll actually be 12:30 your time. Tell me that you want to learn how to do Einstein. And then you'll be there early. I'll be teaching how to do Einstein at that time. And then you will meet many other people like Peggy McGuire and Kim and Branka, who's from Germany. And you will see people from 37 different countries. And we do Einstein together for the betterment of each person and their family and all of their neighbors and the world. Go again to healer2besure.com. healer2besure@gmail.com. Let me know that you want to come so I can send you a Zoom link. All right, please share where to begin in the path as you have. Well, in my case, I grew up in a house where my mother was born on Halloween, and I was already born into a family of psychic gifts and abilities. My mother knew everything I was doing all of the time, even when I was in Chicago and they were in California. She knew what was happening to me in Israel when she was in California and in New Jersey. My mom always knew. So I was brought up with a few things that came naturally. When I was a kid, before my near-death experience, I actually had the ability to tell people who to bet on what game and by what score. Chicago Bears versus the Indianapolis Colts. And in those days, it was the Baltimore Colts. And I was told who would win the game and by what score. I was known for doing that, but there was one caveat. I could not bet on the game myself. And I stopped doing it because everybody wanted to know the scores, but nobody was willing to give me anything for it. So I stopped using that gift. You don't respect the gift, you don't get the gift. And that's what I decided to start using the gift for other things. Each time I died, the first one I was 17 years old, the second time I was 36. Each time I came back with more healing gifts, from the smelling of angels to be able to tell premonitions about when things were going to happen, and especially about what was going to occur or what did occur from a person, what burdens they were carrying in their lifetime that they needed to let go of so that they could heal. The thing is, human beings don't know how to let go of burdens from lifetime to lifetimes. You got to let it go. Like I said, Scorpios don't know how to let go of grief. They have to learn, or they'll burn, or they will carry that grief from lifetime to lifetime on infinitum. Don't do that. Grief is a seriously detrimental condition, and it will lower your energy and open the doors to evil. Human beings, souls, and bodies were never meant to get sick. Their job was to endure, persevere, and overcome and master this reality. Once you become strong enough by doing Einstein or any of these other techniques, no evil will mess with you. Not that they won't try, but you're going to become stronger than they are. And therefore, your prayers will take on greater power and greater weight. So when you do Einstein with me, and we do Einstein in a group setting, it's exponential power. And your prayers can be answered. There's no true miracles. There's something that's natural, and they become astonishments. And they become miraculous astonishments because they're constantly astonishing to witness these things. It's amazing. All right. Is your method a way to bring healing to emotional trauma? And like I said, the main trauma that the angels want you to know about is emotional trauma. And a large percentage of the people I work with are people who've been abused physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, and spiritually from the time they're a kid. And so does it work? And my favorite answer is you betcha. Would you be comfortable giving us an example of what takes place at an Einstein? Well, I saved that for a lot of stuff. It's best if you read about it. Go to chapter 5, module 5, and you'll read about Einstein. There's just too much for me to go into. The nuances of it, you won't learn it overnight. It's going to be a practice, literally. And you're going to learn to do this twice a day. Can I do, or did you already do Einstein before engaging in this? I was doing a version of it, not knowing how to do it correctly till they showed me later. But I would call out to God, Jesus, Michael the Archangel, for help and healing. See, I didn't know what the third being in the room was. And when I teach you this, part of it is about that third being, because it was his teaching to me that helped me teach other people. So I like to share that privately when we do our Einstein sessions. Do I have a question, or I have a question? Could I ask it verbally? Sure. Is that you, Jim? Jim, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm just having trouble with my phone a little bit. Hi, so I've had a near-death experience, and I've been on my path since '82 from that experience. And something comes up for me with my healing work, that it's not the goal to keep someone alive. That it's really so that's not like something I'm going to hold on to as that's a win, because I don't know what is
It
the greater
depends on the
picture.
person. First of all, if the goal, that's the object is here. Well, I'll share it with you the way Bernie Siegel, my uncle, talked about it. Bernie Siegel, Love, Medicine, Miracles. I talk about him. He's mishpacha, extended family. Bernie wrote the book Love, Medicine, and Miracles. He wrote 17 others. He was my first guest. He was also my teacher, and he's a friend and family member. I asked Bernie one day why certain doctors become surgeons. And he said it all dealt with exactly what was happening with his wife, Bobby. Bobby passed away. Bernie's 93, still lives in Connecticut. And he said, when in a past lifetime, I was a soldier and I worked for a lord, and the lord didn't like the following other lord that was next door. And even though I fell in love with the lord's daughter, he wanted me to wipe out the family and kill her and the father. He said, if I didn't kill them, the Lord would kill me. So he did. So he told me he had to take care of Bobby in this life because he had killed Bobby in a previous lifetime. I said, why were you the surgeon though? He said, surgeons, if you killed with a knife, you must heal. Excuse me, if you kill, the words are tangled up today. If you kill with a sword, you must heal with the knife. And therefore, sometimes certain things happen because you have to fix what you did not do in a previous lifetime. Now, is there karma in actuality? No. Everything you do in reality, in our reality, is out of love. It is a love contract, not karma. Evil knows very well it doesn't have to do anything. If it harmed you, it could care less. It's going to come back into its own family and have all the wealth, the money, and the power, but they don't care. Your job, if you're going to spin towards the good and God, is to correct things out of love. And no, you don't want to keep somebody who's not meant to stay, and hence the term they give me, touch not my child, when I'm not allowed to prevent them from dying. It's real simple. And so one of the first things that people will ask me is, did you hear that saying, touch not my child? And if they ask that question, I have to tell them. And if that's the case, then I have to share with them how to be prepared about what's going to occur in the next 12 weeks. And if it's going to be more than 12 weeks, I could be working with somebody for 3 months. And then the voice will come and say, touch not my child. So it may not be at that moment, but it may be someone down the road. But we are all in school. We are all here to learn. We have a finite amount of time. But here's another thing. The more evolved you become, the more powerful you become, the longer you will live your life. And you will do it without strife. And you'll realize that astrological events do not bother you anymore. You will master this reality. And there are masters who live on this world who claim to be 450 to 600 years old. They've mastered this reality, and they're just here to pray so everybody else wakes up. So, have I answered your question in this long, laborious response?
Yes, but I also like to coach people to not be afraid of dying
Well,
when
first of
they're,
all,
that
if you come from the other side, the angels have said they fear this world.
Right.
That's really life. This world, hey, you shouldn't be afraid of death. It is the hardest thing to be afraid of this life.
Yeah.
The scariest thing is to be on this planet, the worst neighborhood in the entire universe, the toughest place to learn, but the greatest learning that can occur at the highest level. So number one, yes, don't be afraid of death and stop calling it death.
Right.
This world is an illusion. Start calling it what it is. It's a holographic universe, which is really one heck of a great illusion.
Yeah, love it.
Yes. So, and what does it says? Then no thanks, respectfully. There's 44 people you can help right now, but no, you need to buy the book. You don't have to buy the book. I don't care if you buy the book or not. But if you want to learn the terminology, if you want to be successful with the terminology, the book is $9.99 on ebook. It's an ebook. But if you don't want it, that's okay with me. But I can tell you there's a 100% failure rate if you do not know the terminology beforehand. So, yes, I use the book as a blocking point. You don't want to use the book? Fine. But you're also not going to be invited to do Einstein. Why? Because you're not going to be spending $9.99 because you don't want to buy the book to read the terms I need for you to know? Okay, then we won't be working together. And that's as simple as it gets. But can I help other people? Yes. Am I here to sell books? No. But the real reason the book was written was not to sell the books. It was because I don't want to repeat the same thing over and over and over again I work with somebody for 90 minutes. I don't want to waste my time or your time going over what you can read in a $9.99 book. Read it. Be prepared. One of the things the angels have told me is be prepared. You don't want to be prepared. We won't be working together. All right. I mentioned angels. Which one? Michael the archangel, Gabriel, Raphael, to say the few. And I always say the third angel, but I only do that when I teach doing Einstein. Now, you don't have to like me. People either love me or they hate me. But what did I tell you? Don't hate anybody. You don't like me, fine. The door is in the back of the room. You can leave anytime. I am blunt. I'm a Sagittarian, but I'm also a loving, caring individual. My job's not to tell a story. My job is to tell you that you need to get motivated, and now is the time to do it because the time is getting very close to the change in reality. Come with us. Bring heaven to earth. Elevate your conscious level to the fourth and fifth dimension. You don't have to do it by doing Einstein, pushing faint matter or prayer. Find another way. This is just my way. This is what I was sent back to earth to teach. So just don't take offense about anything. You don't like me, there is another door for you. You like me, you'll work with me. And that's about being a blunt Sagittarian with a doctor background. I do not come from ego or greed. I just sometimes am a little blunt. And that's just who I am. I guess it's because my mom was that way. My dad was that way. He was military. And I was raised in a military family. So it's probably just part of me too. So would you like to hear a story from Kim? Kim, are you on here today? Can you share? I'd like to bring someone in who's already been doing Einstein. It's only what, 2 weeks? Kim?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can everybody else hear?
Yes.
Kim came skeptical to me to learn Einstein. She's not a client. She just asked if she could learn Einstein. So share some things learning Einstein.
Well,
And you use Jesus, so I know that.
that's all right. First, I think I sent you an email explaining what I thought was a baby out of body experience that I had in church. One Sunday evening, I think I came from work, came to some sort of program they had at the church. Maybe about 15 people were there. And I used to always say, there's got to be more than this because sometimes leaders have a tendency to minister about politics, just non-essential things, I think. And so I was thinking that the next thing I knew, I was outside of my body, looking down at myself, up where the chandeliers and the lights are, looking all around the church, wondering what in the world is going on, what has happened. I stayed within the confines of the building. Could have been a few seconds, could have been a few minutes. When you're having something like that happen to you, you just kind of lose all sense of time and, kind of where you were. Where you are and what's going on. So I went back, and of course, like a lot of people, you have a tendency, do I share this? Do I not? I just don't know. So actually, when I emailed you, that was the first time I'd actually shared that with someone. And that probably happened about 15 to 20 years ago.
All right. And
Yeah.
now you learned Einstein, was it 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago?
It's been about two. I think the first part of, was it April? The
Yeah.
first session you had in April.
And what did you say to me afterwards? That you just learned how to do this. Was it easy to learn? She froze up. God froze her up. I guess God does not want me to share that.
It was so but anyway, it was not hard. I just had to get my routine. Of course, I had to read it several times. I couldn't memorize it initially.
Yeah, and I didn't expect you to
But
because these are new terms for you. You got to learn the words. And you came to me
That's
smiling,
right.
said that it made a difference already in just 2 weeks. So is there a way to divinely connect to God? Yes. So thank you, Kim.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome.
You're welcome. I will see you on the 18th because I know you come to our group. All right. Being blunt saves time. Well, I worked in the emergency room. I know it. It can be that way. So don't mean to be harsh. It's just it is. My audiobook should be done by the end of the month of May. They'll be doing it, fixing it up in the early part of June. So it should be out by, I'm going to say June 14th, 15th. All right. And it covers all the areas I need people to know about if they're going to learn what they need to know. The other thing is, can you share ways to clear the pineal gland? One of them is Einstellen. Number 2, go out into nature. Spend 3 days and 2 nights in nature every month. That means, go camping, stuff like that. Number 3, don't drink fluorinated water. That's a big one. Number 5, keep your cell phone away from your head. Number 6, make sure that your computer and your cell phone are properly buffered. I have a magnetic thing that's around my phone that keeps me buffered. It's a protection shield. Number 7, stay positive. If you're not going to do Einstellen, do some form of prayer every day. And an internal prayer meditation is you will take your eyes and focus towards your third eye and go backwards into your head and actually visualize the color purple and the number 55515 inside your pineal gland. The color purple is healing, and it removes dark faint matter along with 55515. Well, people say, well, can I use the color purple as in the number? Sure. Or you can use a white 55515, but use the color purple. It takes away pain, and it also takes away and allows the decalcification of your pineal gland. And the last one, tamarind. You've heard of the herb. It's not really an herb. Would you call it a, not a jelly? It's not a, you've heard of tamarind. Look it up. Like ginger and other things, tamarind is a spice. Thank you. Tamarind. Tamarind will decalcify the pineal gland. All right. The book I mentioned, my book is $9.99. It's an ebook. It'll be downloaded instantly. You can get it on Amazon. Same as the regular book. That's the $68 version. That's the 3rd edition. And the special edition will be coming out. It's $15.99, and that'll be the audio book. What is faint matter, Mary? All right. Faint matter is another word for dark energy or negative energy. Yep, tamarind, that's how you did it. Indian fruit with seeds. I knew it had to be in the fruit category. I called it a spice. Yes. And faint matter is dark energy that when I teach you how to do this technique, you will turn inside using your third eye, your pineal gland, and you'll go in your body and you'll push out negative energy from your body wherever the body hurts or calcifications have occurred, and you'll keep doing it. You do not do it at the same time you do Einstellen. Einstellen is to be done twice a day at other times of the day, but pushing faint matter is done about 2 to 3 times a week. And one other thing that will help clear your pineal gland is listen to the frequency 528 and 963. These are solfeggio frequencies. You can look them up on the internet. I actually have verbal numbers for those things. Excuse me again. Somebody says,
Please repeat.
oh, the repeat is 528 and 963.
Thank you.
Yeah, so play those numbers. So now you have 8 things that can clear your pineal gland. But the major one, stay away from fluoride. Stay away from computers and phones without protection. And do your Einstein, especially in nature. All right. It's now 4:30. Anybody else have anything else? It seems like you guys are dropping like flies, so it means I'm either boring you to death or your tushes are hurting because your brain can't handle any more than your tush can take. The workbook is part of the book. It's why there's 411 pages in it. And we'll go from there.
I have a quick question, Ms. Kim.
Hi, Kim.
You mentioned the states that did not allow God to be mentioned in the medical field.
Yeah,
You
that's
mentioned
California,
California.
California, New York, Massachusetts, and now Michigan just took it on. God is no longer in the state constitution of those 4 states. And
Thank
as a
you.
result, you cannot discuss God with your patients, otherwise you'll lose your license. So I said, okay, I'll give up my license and I'll move to Florida. And
Thank you.
yes, the country of Germany, it's now illegal in the country of Germany for the German doctors I work with to discuss God with their patients. So be aware of that. And remember, you're not politics. You're not a country. You're not a man or a woman, black or white, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, or Muslim. You are just simply a child of God and you're wearing something that's like a uniform. You put it on, you enter stage right, the curtain goes up, you live your life, the curtain goes down, you exit stage left, there's lives between lives, then you enter again, put on another uniform and go up and do it all over again until there's no longer a need for you to repeat this. And we will eventually master this. And that one day, every soul will bend their knees and head to these, Father, our King, our one, our all, our everything. The game will finish. God will give us a flash of light and we'll begin all again. Diane, Vicky, Diane, do you have any questions for me?
I think you're doing a good job here, putting it all out there. Um, um, Someone just asked, when do you expect the audiobook to come out?
Yeah, and I said it'll be out probably the middle of June. So
And there's 7 new messages.
yeah, it came in after Tamran. Somebody said, this is fantastic. Thank you. What is the pineal gland? Your pineal and pituitary gland are those glands that excrete directly into the blood supply. The pineal gland is inside what we call the third eye. It's in the middle and the center of your head. It is responsible for connecting us directly to the source so you can ask for help and healing. It is the difference between a 2-brain being and a third brain being. Beings from off-world have an enlarged pineal gland, and it's called a third brain. Human beings have to enlarge their own pineal gland by praying, doing Einstein, and other exercises for making this enlarge. In Egyptian hieroglyphics, you'll actually see someone holding a pineal gland. They didn't know what it was up until recently. They recognized what it looked like. That's the pineal gland. It's what helps connect you to God. The pyramids are a form of energy that will connect you to the divine. Alien beings come to this world. They know how to connect to God because they're divinely connected through an enlarged pineal gland. Somebody said, excellent presentation from Julie. Thank you. And thank you for being here. Did you teach at University of California? Well, as a guest, I've been kicked out of universities because they didn't like my feelings on God and the near-death experience. But that's when I found out that California did not allow me to talk about God. They wanted to talk about chemotherapy, regular standard medicine, or alternatives that they were into. So, Heidi, nice to meet you. Like I said, my book is There Are No Lines in Heaven. It's available on Amazon. I will send out an email to Diane when the book is on the audio version, which was it's made primarily for people who have difficulties reading and or are vision impaired. And it specifically covers a shortened version of the book from its third edition. Every year or every 2 years, I put out another copy of an improved version of it because this was originally a textbook, and that's why it's so large. People said, why is it so that? Because textbooks are expensive if you go to medical schools and colleges. They're big, they're heavy, and they are covering a lot of things. There's 6 major chapters. Half of the book is chapter 5. It's teaching you how to be your own greatest physician with God. The first part is my story about how mom and dad came back to me after they died. The second one were 36 terms and teachings that God gave me. The third one was IANDS and the definitions between spirituality and religion, and what is IANDS definition of a near-death experience versus mine. And then one is called, chapter 4 is called Mishpacha, extended family from the heart. People like Liliana there in Chicago and all the other people I've met and worked with, and all the 38 lifetimes that I'm aware of and how they deal with this reality and how I help people through knowing their past lifetimes. The 5th, of course, is all the teachings for the doctors and their patients. And the 6th is the compilation of the entire story in 19 pages. It's basically why I wrote the book to begin with. And the lady that was my first editor in Toronto made me take chapter 1 and move it to the back of the book. And then the doctors all complained that wanted to read it, said, why'd you put it in the back? And I said, because my editor said nobody would be interested in it till the very end. Now, since I'm used to teaching doctors want to know the why you wrote the book to begin with. So I tell everybody, read chapter 6 first. It's short. It covers everything, and then you can get into depth and detail. But when somebody contacts me and says, I either want to learn to do Einstein or I want to have you as a private session, and they're called Divine Training Sessions, DTSs, not treatments. They're divine. God is the greatest physician. He's the doctor. You're just my clients. So you'll learn about those things and the medical terminologies that I had to deal with when changing from one kind of healthcare practitioner to another. So there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, some people can read that book really fast. If you're already a healing practitioner, psychologists call me, and they're used to reading that kind of stuff. Because when you're in medical school, you learn to read very quickly. You need to get to the meat and potatoes really quick. The average person isn't going to read a 411-page one that fast. And then there's other people who have vision difficulties and or learning disabilities, and at least I can have a verbal version of it so you can hear, especially if you're visually impaired. So let's see. Is there anything else? Am I missing anybody else's questions?
Looks like you got pretty
I-
well.
You have 15 minutes to share with everything about next visit, about who's going to be on. I would love to be there in person next time if you guys would love to meet in person, or you can come to the Orlando area. They have Breeze Airlines coming out of Chicago, and it's $99 round trip from Chicago to Orlando. So you can come and actually meet me in person. I will eventually be taking this to the next level, where I'll be teaching over the weekend and making my 12 modules within chapter 5 into a monthly class so that you can actually get course training in alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine.
Wonderful. Do you see a lot of variation in your how people heal?
Yes, there's no two people that heal the same way. And
Exactly.
it's all about the biology of their belief. The more they believe, the more they achieve, the faster it is. If you say, I don't accept this diagnosis or challenge or problem, those people heal quickly. The people who have the hardest time healing are people who believe in their diagnosis. It's like having a leech on you and you can't get rid of the leech. You can't heal till you get it off. The slug is stuck. The angels have told me, you want to heal, let go of the issue. And you got to let go of it. What's the simple way to know your mission and purpose in one's incarnation? Number one, first thing, everybody's mission and purpose in life is to master this reality, endure, persevere, and overcome it. Number two, help other people. How you help other people is dependent on your interests. What floats your boat? What do you like to do to help people? Are you into the greed and ego? In which case, are you going to be there to help other people learn how to make money? That's something that's good. Or are you going to be able to help people bring the new heaven to earth? All is up to you. And your mission and purpose in life will also deal with your past or previous lifetimes. So, if you were a soldier and you harmed people, the chances are your present life is going to be in helping people heal. If you needed to learn a certain way and people taught you things, then the chances are you're going to be a teacher. Do I work with animals? Yes, I love animals. Animals come back and tell me stories. And right before someone dies, one of an animal who's around that person will come and tell me about it. What happened was one of my neighbors had a cat, and suddenly the cat showed up at the back door. And the cat began to talk to me and say that their owner was about ready to cross over. Could I do a prayer for them? And then the cat walked away. And the next day I heard that the owner had passed away. Animals talk to me all the time. Every animal has a mission and purpose in life, and they have messages. They're messengers. I have eagles that will fly down next to me and drop a feather. Means they have a message for me. Do you do past life readings? Yes. The quote cost is a donation. So I want you to know, I can't practice like the old way. I practice the new way, and I am a private membership association, Theocentric Eleemosynary 508 C1A, spiritual charity of one, also known as a corporation soul. So the word cost doesn't come into my vocabulary. Everything is revolving around a donation. And you'll find the donation request for a single person or a couple on the website. There are no lines in heaven. The reason is I'm not allowed to talk about it publicly because that's PR promotion and that deals with business. This is not a business. I do things to help people, and I do things because God has divinely asked me to do so. So I work with people. The most interesting thing happened. A man called me from Sweden, and I did not know this about the Swedes. The day he asked me to work with his son, who was severely damaged by a vaccine, had nothing to do with COVID. This was before COVID. He was not allowed to talk to me at certain times because because he was injured, the Swedish government had person living in the home taking care of him, and he was not allowed to research alternative medicine while this man was in the room spying on him and recording that I was not a relative working with him in Sweden. He said Sweden has become very totalitarian and you're not allowed to do anything the government will not allow you, specifically dealing with medicine. And that's another country where you're not allowed to bring up God in the conversation. And they will cut off his benefits if he heard me discussing healing and God. So go onto the website, There Are No Lines in Heaven, and you'll read about it. And then I have a special fee that's requested when I have to travel long distances. For instance, I'm going to be asked to come and stay at a bed and breakfast up on the small island of Friday Harbor, San Juan Islands in the Puget Sound, and they will take care of me, and I will do a talk for 100 people live, and then I will do readings for the next 4 or 5 days. So, and everybody, you have to know, everybody has to take physical notes. And yes, I do everything on Zoom or on your phone, and you must record me because when God comes through me, I can't tell you what I said. When I start having stuff come through me from the divine, I couldn't tell you what it was. But if it's me talking, Dr. Robinson talking, I know what that is. But when the divine comes through me and has a message for you, a person from the other side, something about your near-death experience, something like that, then you better have recorded me because I couldn't tell you what that was. So,
Um,
do all Scorpios have grief issues? Yes. To the greatest extent, one or the other? No. Some are more difficult than others. It depends on what your sun sign is, your moon sign, your north node. There's other things within it. And I like to teach doctors about astrology, but I call it probability and statistics because they understand that much better. And I know things as a court medical examiner, and probability and statistics are not all Scorpios are equal, but there's certain things in a Scorpio's category that make them harder to give up grief. Now, is it with everybody? No. Like I said, it has to be with other things inside the sign. Same thing that nobody is just their sun sign. But the probability and statistics would say the probability is greater than 51%, whereas the possibility is less than 49%. It's a court term. Is a recording always talking available? Yes, you must. I will record you. I need to keep a record of your recording. That's what my requirement is.
he asked, this person asked about this talk. This talk will be, the video will be posted on our, online within the next day or two, and then will be available with over 100 recordings that Chicago IANDS has posted of previous lectures. If you go to our website, chicagoiands.org, and scroll down on the home page, you will see places that you can access all of the videos. It's easier to do that than to go to YouTube.
Yeah, and then that can be placed, and with permission, I will ask permission from IANDS of Chicago, like it did with Seattle and for Santa Barbara, so that I can put that on my website as well. So, and then can a person get an NMD, a naturopathic MD measured? Or your MD is using another term? So what are you referring to as an NMD here? Who's asking the question, Julie?
Lee.
Julie? On the definition for NMD, because it can mean several things. What are you referring to for NMD?
She says pineal substance.
All right, and no, that's it's not NMD. It is dimethyltryptamine, DMT. Let me put it down there. DMT. And yes, you can measure it. And there's two ways.
Lorraine asks a question. I come from a family of chiropractors, but I'm not one myself. So do you ever teach chiropractic?
Yes. My school is right there in Chicago. It's in Lombard, Illinois.
Which
And
school?
it was
School.
National College of Chiropractic, which years later became National University of Health Sciences. They also teach physical therapists, acupuncturists, and nurses nowadays. Am I an ER doctor in Florida? No, I don't do ER work anymore unless I'm called in for it. But I gave up all my medical licenses on purpose. I became a licensed religious counselor and I do things from the spiritual perspective. I work with the Romano-Byzantine Orthodox. That's the Eastern Orthodox Church. And somebody's getting a phone call.
Sorry about that. It will stop in a minute.
Or it won't. All right. Have I talked off everybody's ears or burnt everybody's butts to the point where they can't handle anymore? Heidi, are you okay?
I am more than okay. I want you to keep talking.
That's only up to Diane. I think they have a limited time on their Zoom.
Yeah, we've got 6 minutes.
All right. Anybody else?
Any other questions? Well, I think we're good to move on. Wait a minute.
All right. Lorraine threw it in there. All right. What's it say? A year ago, my oldest cat died in my arms on the way to the vet. What are your thoughts? It was ready to go home and wanted you around them because it made them comfortable. Your cat's been with you before. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last, but wanted to make sure that its love was with you, taking the last negative energy from you before it could go home. Animals do that. They will take negativity away from us. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you feel it was a wonderful message. How can we connect to those angels you mentioned? I'm going to teach you the technique to connect to angels. You got to smell an angel. Oh, it's the most wonderful fragrance. Oh, there's nothing like it. And I got to tell you, being a Jewish kid growing up in an Orthodox Jewish family and thinking they were only Jewish, but to come back from a near-death experience and talking about Jesus, I have to tell you, it didn't go over very well. Also, telling people they were going to die, that didn't go over well either. One of my first gifts was to be able to draw a picture of a person and they would be dead in 3 days. Nobody wanted me to draw their picture. The other thing was, why would the Jewish kid be talking about Jesus? I said, Jesus is Jewish and we're related to him. Why wouldn't we want to be talking about Jesus? Jesus did not want a religion made of him. He wanted his teachings to be disseminated to the world. The fact that we were all like him. We were to follow in his footsteps. No one said made a religion of him. You know the things. Big thing at the time. Romans, they were giving up their old Roman ways, picked up on this newfound religion, and then ran with it. Took the old, mixed it with the new, made their own version. How is Bernie doing? The last I heard from him is for his birthday last month. He's doing pretty good for 93. And he loves to talk to people. He does not like to be called Dr. Siegel. Never do that. Call him Bernie. He's in the process of reading and writing his 18th book. I heard him speak years ago, and last I thought of him, I am happy to hear he's still alive, and he's living in Connecticut, near Sanford, Connecticut. His wife passed away about 5 years ago. Are my two sons going to reconcile? That's a private issue because there's a lot of stuff involved, Bronca, and there's a lot of negativity going on, not only from this lifetime, but previous. So I think you don't want me to talk about that publicly. One more question. In a time of transition post-COVID, rural Michigan versus Chicago, Republican versus Democrat, challenged with finding my next job at work, any guidance on how to go through that? You're going to place a prayer, learn how to do Einstein, and then ask God for help to find you the right job that you need to fulfill your purpose and missions in life.
Wonderful.
Learn to do Einstein. I'm telling you, you can do it for everything. Now, do you have to do it once you learn it? No. It's up to you. Nobody's going to twist your arm. My job wasn't told to learn this and twist everybody's arm. No. Learn how to do this for your own greater good and your higher self. All right. And then just know something else. The evil wants to destroy humanity with a second COVID type issue. They've already named the disease and want to release it between 2027 and 2029. It will be released in late October, beginning of November on either of those 2 years. And this time they actually want to destroy 2/3 of the world. But I don't think you really want me to get into that stuff because I try to stay away from the negativity. I would just like you to believe it's better to bring heaven to earth than hell and learn to let go of the other stuff. But if I were you, I wouldn't get vaccinated. But is there a way to get rid of the vaccine side effects? You betcha. But I don't bring it up in public, especially anything that's on YouTube. I share that privately. That's between you and me and God.
Well, that will be interesting to find out how that evolves. Meanwhile, we certainly appreciate your being with us here today. Uh, we do not charge admission for our meetings because I so strongly feel the information disseminated here is so important. It should be available to everyone, regardless of their ability to pay. On the other hand, we do have expenses, especially since we're on online instead of in person, and we don't take in enough money to cover expenses at the moment. We still are solvent, so we're okay. But if anybody feels the inclination to donate, please go to chicagoians.org and follow the instructions.
Very good. And you can take credit cards, Venmo, Zelle, and if you see you in person, Diane, they can actually give you cash, right?
They can do that. Yes, absolutely. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. And don't forget, we have Andrea coming back next month, and actually the next 2 months we have people who've lost children. We have a large number of people in this group who have lost children, and they've found a lot of consolation and answers within the group, and so just for people who have that in their lives or are interested. The next 2 months, we have Andrea Corey, then Brian Smith, who lost his son.
And remember, grief is one of the hardest things on the body. And the angels want you to know, let go of it as quickly as possible, even if you're a Scorpio.
Yes,
Even if you're a Scorpio. All right. God bless to everybody. Thank you again. I look forward to seeing you guys when I actually visit Chicago. And it'd be nice to be back there. Homecoming is coming up next month, but I don't know if I'm going to be talking to my homecoming. But when I do come out there, I'd love to meet a lot of the friends who are IANDS members there in Chicago. God bless to everybody. And thank you, Diane, for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Scott.
coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I will do that too.